There's no great way to say this. Some of our favorite Golden Age Hollywood stars were weird and freaky, but there is no way to know this if all you remember are their works on screen. So let's put a microscope on their lives and reveal some of the most disgusting and depraved rumors about some of these stars. Are these rumors true or just exaggerated gist? We'll let you be the judge of that. The toy rumor. In the 1920s, two men were the product of intense debates about who was the most handsome and the best on-screen lover. Nobody had the slightest clue that both men were gay, but as their careers began, they too didn't seem to realize their sexuality. In the early golden era of Hollywood, anybody who looked anything other than Anglo or Northern European was cast to play everything from Italians to Spaniards, Greeks, Hungarians, Arabs, and Persians. For a very long time, two men, Rudolph Valentino and Ramon Novarro, were the screen's greatest Latin lovers, and just by looking at them, you'd know why. They were both tall, dark, handsome, and exotic-looking. The 1920s audience loved that, but the interesting thing here is that, as far as Hollywood history is concerned, where two celebrities seem to be popular, only one would be the real fan favorite. And for a time in the US, Valentino was the biggest box office draw with films such as The Sheik, in which he played an African sheik. But Mexican-born Novarro was rapidly gaining on his Italian-born rival. However, on the other end, Novarro had shown a much greater acting range than Valentino in movies such as The Arab, in which he played a deserting Bedouin soldier, and Scaramouche, in which he played a French swashbuckler. So how did their paths finally cross? Well, it all started with the film A Sainted Devil in 1924. Although Valentino was the star of the film, Novarro had a smaller, uncredited role, and while they may have met before, this film is their earliest known collaboration. And this brings us to the rumors. Let's face it, Ramon and Valentino were known as Latin lovers, incredibly intense on screen, and commanded a type of charm that showed they were in touch with their feminine side. As a result of their flamboyance, even off-screen, rumors began to spread that they were secretly gay. So, was there some truth to this? Well, for Valentino, there may have been some truth about his homosexuality because for a very long time he had been seen with men in compromising situations. But soon, he was linked with his colleague, Ramon Novarro. As you can imagine, the news had a field day with this rumor. And one interviewer even went ahead to report that Novarro had secretly admitted to Cary Grant that the rumors of his affair with Valentino were true. This brings us to yet another question. Where does the male bedroom toy come in all of these? According to the rumors, Valentino had gifted Novarro a model of a male member. As shocking and juicy as that piece of information is, it gets even more interesting. This model member wasn't just ordinary, it was said to be modeled after Novarro's himself. This gift was so his colleague and secret lover would not be too lonely when they were away filming movies and busy with work. It was said that Novarro kept this model tool on his nightstand and saw it as one of his most treasured properties. Now, as far as rumors go, this was an incredibly inappropriate one, and the public leaned into it, pairing both of them together and enjoying all the fruits that came with it. But sadly, on the 30th of October in 1968, Novarro's life came to a brutal end when two men approached him offering to be intimate with him. Before this, Novarro had not been open with his orientation, but unknown to him, these men were actually robbers and beat him till he drew his last breath. This was by far a tragic end to such a shocking rumor, but this next rumor is actually harder to believe. Marilyn Monroe had bad hygiene. Remember Marilyn Monroe, one of the most popular actresses and celebrated sex symbol of the Golden Age? Well, it's hard to imagine, but according to some of the rumors at the time behind closed doors, she was incredibly dirty and unhygienic. Sources suggest that Monroe had a tendency to avoid bathing for days on end, which led to body odor issues. As a matter of fact, her second husband, Joe DiMaggio, reportedly complained about her lack of bathing. He found it disgusting and couldn't believe that someone so beautiful could be so dirty. Still find it hard to believe? Well, it appears that it wasn't only her husband who complained about this. Monroe's former housekeeper, Lena Pepitone, mentioned in her memoir that Monroe would often wear the same dirty clothes for days and leave piles of dirty dishes in her bedroom. But it gets even worse. It was also said that Monroe would eat in bed and push the leftovers under the sheets for the maids to clean in the morning. But as with every shocking rumor, there are also those who refuse to believe it. Some close friends and confidants of Monroe, such as Jane Russell, who co-starred with her in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, described her as very clean. So which should we believe? Separating fact from fiction can be a dirty business sometimes, but speaking of dirty, this next rumor comes to mind. Joan Crawford did an adult film. The year before she got her start, however, Crawford did another project called The Casting Couch, and it was her first ever on-screen work. And in case you haven't guessed it yet, The Casting Couch was a soft-core adult film. But if you want more details, then this should get you going. In the film, aspiring actors decide to attend a Hollywood party in a bit to fulfill their dreams of being stars, and in this party, they also act out scenes from various films for the pleasure of the audience. Just when the storyline begins to get interesting, the actors begin to take off their clothes and explicit intimacy begins to go on in the back rooms of the party. In this film, Crawford plays a girl called Gloria. Just like the other actors, she too wanted to make it in Hollywood, but there was something more seductive about her. Thankfully, a year later, Crawford found success in mainstream Hollywood, but this is not where the story ends. According to the Daily Mail and biographers who have studied Crawford's life, it appears that was not the only adult film Crawford featured in. As a matter of fact, The Casting Couch was just one of several adult films that Crawford appeared in, including Velvet Lips, The Plumber, and She Knows Best. But more so, rumors were that Crawford enjoyed these films, and they were what shot her to fame in the Hollywood we have come to know and love. But Crawford was not the only one with sensual rumors. You'll be shocked by this next one. Marlene Dietrich liked girls. Have you ever heard of the phrase sewing circle? Well, if you've not, then you're in for a treat. It was a term used by Marlene Dietrich, and you'd never guess what it was code for. A closeted lesbian and bisexual scene in Hollywood, of which she was also a member. That's right, Marlene loved women, and there were a lot of reports of how she would seek out female attention and be intimate with them. However, according to reports, Marlene was also a very skilled lover. But let's hear reports from others, shall we? The late actor Klaus Kinski described something rather gripping in his autobiography. Apparently, his own wife, Edith Edwards, had once been intimate with Dietrich, and for some reason, he got the full gist of what happened from her. So when he wrote it down in words, it stunned everyone who read it. He wrote, "Marlene tore down Edith's undies backstage in a Berlin theater and using just her mouth, brought Edith to climax." Now that's intense. Betty Grable insured her legs. Betty Grable was by far one of the most beautiful actresses of Hollywood's golden age. She had an amazing smile and gorgeous hair, but what really caught people's attention were her legs. They were long, shapely, and famous for being the sexiest part of her body. Apparently, all the comments and compliments got to her so much, she decided to do something daring. For a whopping $1 million, her studio 20th Century Fox decided to insure her legs, and it became more of a symbol of appeal after that. So it is no surprise that she became a pinup girl. On one hand, it seemed like it was just because she loved her legs so much, but in reality, the rumors began to swirl that it was just a marketing tool. You see, her legs were now known as the $1 Million Legs and had become more than just a nickname. They were a legend. The insurance policy was designed to protect the studio's investment in their star, but it also served as a publicity stunt, ensuring that Betty Grable remained in the spotlight. This was, after all, the golden age of Hollywood, a time when studios crafted their stars' images with precision and promoted them with relentless fervor. Why was this such a terrible thing? Well, because soon after, a darker rumor began to swirl. Whispers in Hollywood suggested that the insurance policy might have been inflated, a figure far beyond what was necessary, and that it was part of a more sinister scheme to portray her legs as more valuable than it was, simply to twist people's perceptions. According to the gossip, there were plans to collect on the policy under dubious circumstances, hinting at an insurance scam involving Grable herself. The idea that the wholesome all-American star might be entangled in such a plot was shocking and compelling. Yet, like so many Hollywood rumors, this one was never substantiated. No official investigation took place, and no legal action was ever pursued. Olive Thomas's syphilis saga. Olive Thomas was a stunning silent film star whose name might have been lost to time if not for the mysterious circumstances surrounding her death. In the early 1900s, silent films were all the rage, but many of those old reels have deteriorated or disappeared over the years. Because of this, Olive is remembered less for her acting and more for the tragedy that struck when she was just 25 years old. It all started in 1916 when Olive met Jack Pickford, the younger brother of Mary Pickford, one of the biggest stars of the silent film era. Their romance moved quickly, and just 8 months after they met, Olive and Jack were married. It seemed like a fairy tale, but things weren't as perfect as they appeared. Jack may have called Olive the love of his life, but that didn't stop him from chasing other women. By 1918, their marriage was already in trouble. In a desperate attempt to win Olive back, Jack joined the Navy, thinking it might impress her and rekindle their love. But instead of fixing their problems, Jack found himself in the middle of a scandal. He got involved with a lieutenant who was arranging cushy, safe assignments for wealthy soldiers. For a price. When they were caught, both men were court-martialed. Jack escaped with only a dishonorable discharge, but the damage to his reputation and his marriage was done. Despite their rocky relationship, Olive and Jack decided to give their marriage another shot. In 1920, they took a second honeymoon, sailing from Paris to New York in an attempt to rekindle their romance. But instead of a fresh start, tragedy struck. On the night of September 9th, the couple returned to their hotel room in Paris after a night out. It was around 3 a.m. when they arrived back, and just a couple of hours later, Jack made a frantic call to the hotel staff saying that Olive had gone overboard with her medication. The details of what happened in that hotel room are still unclear, but the medication Olive took was believed to be bichloride of mercury, a common treatment for syphilis at the time. Rumors flew. Some people said Olive had discovered that Jack had syphilis from his many affairs and had accidentally taken his medication, mistaking it for something else. Others whispered that she might have intentionally gone overboard out of despair. There were even darker theories. Some believed Jack had something to do with it so he could collect her life insurance policy. Olive clung to life for 4 agonizing days before she passed away. The coroner eventually ruled her death as accidental, but the mystery has never been fully resolved. What really happened to Olive Thomas in that hotel room remains one of Hollywood's most enduring and tragic tales. Clara B was intimate with dogs. Even when you think about it by today's standards, the rumors around Clara B are pretty messed up. The reports around her ran for 3 weeks on Coast Reporter, and it claimed that she was a substance and alcohol lover and unrepentant gambler. But that was not all. The rumors dug into her private life, and a lot of nasty and dirty things were brought to light. Some of them are easily believable. Others are just plain bizarre that it's hard to believe. For one, some of the rumors were that Clara was the mistress of multiple men at the same time. She was also reportedly caught being intimate in public. But if you think you've heard it all, think again, because these reports went on to claim that Clara would also engage in threesomes and had a sort of addiction that would make her sleep with women when men were not available. And if you're wondering what she does when there is no man or woman at all, the reports are a bit disturbing. According to the rumors, when she needed to sleep with someone and no one was available, she would turn to her dog and perform all sorts of nasty and terrible things with it. All of these rumors started when Clara had a falling out with her assistant, and this begrudged secretary decided to leak all of her private documents. The media lives for things like this, and they ran with all the stories found in the private files, but it's possible they exaggerated a bit just to spark interest in the public. Regardless, Clara's career was never the same again. Charles Laughton likes human feces. He was a British-American actor, director, producer, and screenwriter, but he had the most unimaginable fetish at the time, scat fetish. This brings us to the question, how on earth does a rumor like this make it to the light, since it is so private? Well, it would not have been possible without a man named Scotty Bowers. In 2012, Scotty Bowers released a book titled Full Service: My Adventures in Hollywood and the Sex Lives of the Stars. And this book is filled with so many atrocities and secret engagements and acts that Hollywood stars of the late 40s to the 80s were involved in. You see, Bowers was what you'll call an arranger, and what he did was pretty simple once you grasp the concept. Imagine you were a Hollywood star in those times. If you had any sort of weird fantasy of any sort and you needed to make it a reality, all you needed to do was call Scotty Bowers and he would make it happen. On top of that, you can be rest assured of confidentiality. Until he released his book, that is. One of the depraved acts recorded in this book involved Charles Laughton and how he called on Bowers to provide him with a young man to fulfill his fantasy. Now, Scotty doesn't judge. So, without batting an eye, he obliges and comes to Charles's house with the boy. What happened next was a little weird. Laughton took the boy to the bathroom, and a little while later, both of them came out, but the young man was looking a bit stunned. Bowers was trying to make sense of it. But then he was Laughton pick up some bread and spread a brownish substance across it. Bowers had seen a lot in his time, but when he realized what was going on, his eyes widened in shock. The brown substance was the young man's feces, and after spreading it on his bread, Laughton ate it. Tula Bankhead's strange preferences. Exhibitionism. It's a preference of some sort where one gets off by exposing themselves to others and watching others gaze at their bare body. And the rumors were that Bankhead was into this. You see, Tula Bankhead was more than just an actress with a deep, smoky voice. She was a true character, both on and off the stage. And her true character was shown at parties she would go to. People whispered that she loved stripping at parties, not just for shock value, but because she got a real thrill from it. According to the gossip, Tula got off on watching other people's reactions to her bare body. The more people stared, the more she enjoyed it. This wasn't just idle talk. There are plenty of stories about her outrageous behavior at Hollywood gatherings. At one party, she supposedly started shedding her clothes right in the middle of a conversation, leaving everyone around her stunned. On another occasion, she reportedly stood on a table, completely nude, while guests watched in disbelief. Some of these stories were even confirmed by well-known figures who were there to witness her antics. For example, actress Estelle Winwood, one of Tula's closest friends, often spoke about Tula's love for shocking people. Winwood would tell stories about how Tula seemed to come alive when all eyes were on her, especially when she was bare. Actor Burgess Meredith, too, once recalled a party where Tula exposed herself without a second thought as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Now, no one knows for sure whether these stories were completely true or just exaggerated over time, but they have already been written in Tula's history books and will live on forever. Errol Flynn's famous easing. Errol Flynn was more than just a prominent Hollywood actor. He was the epitome of the charming yet notorious leading man whose real-life exploits often overshadowed his cinematic performances. Born in Tasmania, Australia, Flynn burst onto the Hollywood scene in the 1930s and quickly became synonymous with the swashbuckling hero, thanks to films like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood. His on-screen charisma and athletic prowess captivated audiences, but it was his off-screen lifestyle that truly made him a legend. Flynn's striking good looks and effortless charm made him a favorite among fans and a frequent subject of tabloid headlines. He was known for his love of adventure, both in his professional and personal life, often indulging in activities that ranged from sailing and boxing to engaging in whirlwind romances. His penchant for living life on the edge earned him a reputation for being debaucherous and unpredictable, qualities that both fascinated and scandalized the public and the Hollywood establishment. One of the most infamous stories that highlight Flynn's wild nature involves a shocking incident with a journalist, a tale that has become part of Hollywood folklore. During an interview at his opulent Hollywood Hills residence, Flynn reportedly grew bored with the standard line of questioning. Seeking to inject some excitement into the encounter, or perhaps simply acting on a mischievous impulse, he abruptly unzipped his pants and began urinating into the fireplace right in front of the astonished journalist. The act was as audacious as it was unexpected. Turning to his speechless guest with a sly grin, Flynn allegedly quipped, "How's that for a headline?" This brazen display perfectly encapsulated his disregard for convention and his flair for the dramatic. This incident was not an isolated event, but rather a reflection of Flynn's overall approach to life. He often flouted societal norms and Hollywood's unspoken rules, engaging in behavior that ranged from the merely rebellious to the outright scandalous. His actions frequently landed him in hot water with studio executives and sometimes even the law, but they also solidified his image as a man who refused to be tamed or restrained by expectations. Flynn's carefree attitude and penchant for living life to the fullest made him a true original, a star whose real-life adventures were as thrilling as the roles he portrayed on screen. He became a symbol of a bygone era in Hollywood, one characterized by larger-than-life personalities and a willingness to push the boundaries of acceptable behavior. His stories have been recounted and embellished over the years, contributing to a legend that continues to captivate audiences long after his passing.